Hi, David here, and welcome back to the channel, where we're looking at the teaching of divine love through the automatic writings of the early 20th century medium James Padgett. In the last video in this series, 1020, we looked at a message from the Apostle Luke, given through James Padgett on November 22, 1915, and which detailed some of the abilities that come to us when we share in divine love. Today, we're going to take a look at a message given to James the very next evening on November 23, 1915, from the Apostle John, remembered as the author of the fourth Gospel. In this message, John reminds us that the best person to help is often someone who is just a little further along the road than ourselves. Because although they are spiritually more advanced, their proximity to our own state of development means we can still relate to them, which might be more difficult if we find ourselves standing in front of someone who is very much more advanced than ourselves. This is why almost anyone can find someone to help, with or without divine love. John begins his message as follows: I am here, St. John. I want to tell you tonight about the things that spirits who have not received the divine love of God do or have done to them, as you may say, in order for them to get out of their darkness and suffering and progress to a happier condition. So the first question we might ask is why someone might end up in a state of darkness and suffering upon passing to spirit. John responds, well, when these spirits of evil or a sinful life first come into the spiritual world, they enter what is called the first sphere, which is nearest the earth. They are received by their friends, who may have been with them at the time of their passing, and are, to a certain extent, comforted and made familiar with their surroundings. This may last for a shorter or longer time, according to the spirit's capability of understanding his changed condition from mortal to spirit. That might seem an odd thing to say. Surely we know we are dead when it happens. Well, not always. There are many accounts of people taking time to realize that they are no longer upon the earth plane, because despite leaving the physical form behind, they feel no different in themselves, and can still perceive this world through the senses of their spiritual body. This is particularly true of those who pass to spirit having insisted that there is no afterlife, or who have simply ignored the possibility. Those who have been taught that we sleep until some far-off judgment day might do exactly that, and awakening them to their true condition can be extremely difficult, simply because it conflicts with what they believe. John continues, after this condition of consciousness is assumed by the spirit, these friends leave him, and a guiding spirit, whose duty it is to perform the task, shows or conducts him to the place which he is fitted to occupy, and which, by the workings of the law of compensation, he must occupy. Again, there are many accounts of exactly this process of conducting a recently arrived spirit to their appropriate place. As to what that place is like, or where it is, there is no element of reward or punishment involved. As I often say, it is simply that we go to a place where we are not embarrassed by our own nature, meaning we go to a place occupied by others of a similar condition or state of spiritual development John describes this as follows. In this place, he is surrounded by and must associate with spirits of a similar condition of development as his own, until some change comes to him which fits him for a higher place. This change may come in a short time, or it may require a longer time to bring it about. This depends upon the realization by the spirit as to what his condition is, and the fact that there is a possibility of progressing. Of himself, he cannot bring about this change, for the law which fixes his place or condition does not cease to operate until there is called into operation another law which permits and helps the change. So how does this progress come about? John tells us that the only way in which this changed condition can be brought about is by the influence of other spirits of a more enlightened and higher position than that of the spirit, whose position I have spoken of. These influences do not necessarily come from spirits who have received the new birth, but may come from spirits who know nothing about it and who have only the natural love. And even they may not be of a high order of development of either intellect or soul. However, they must be in such a condition that they know and are able to tell the lower spirit of the possibility of progress and the way in which it can be made. So there's a few things to bring out there. When John talks of spirits who have received the new birth, what he indicates is those who share in divine love, which some describe as having been reborn. It's important to be aware that this is an actual sharing at the soul level with a real force or power in the universe, and nothing to do with believing in or on anyone's name. But the point that John makes here is that it is not necessary to be one of those celestial spirits in order to help others. As any teacher knows, you don't need to know it all. You just need to know a bit more than your students in order to benefit them. John points out that many spirits who are themselves in a dark condition and position can help others who are in a darker condition. Just as on Earth, a student of a lower class in school may not be able to teach all that is taught or may be learned in that school, yet he can teach those who are in a lower class than his own things that he has learned in progressing to his own class. Most all spirits have a work to do, and these spirits of little development are engaged in teaching those of lesser development the way to get in the same condition as those who teach are in. Of course, these latter cannot teach anything that belongs to a higher condition than the one in which they are. So far, so good, but then John says something that is very striking. In such cases, the progress is very slow for many reasons, and it sometimes takes centuries for a spirit to progress from a very low plane to a higher one, where only the lowest grade of happiness exists. In the Padgett messages we looked at so far on this channel, those we've heard from who have been in spirit for many centuries are very high up in either the spiritual heavens or the celestial heavens that lie beyond them. Even some of the people who are Padgett's contemporaries and who have not been in spirit very long, maybe just a few years, have in some cases made very rapid progress. So it gives us pause for thought to learn that progress for some people can be incredibly gradual. The key, of course, is divine love. Those in spirit known to James Padgett and who have made rapid progress have achieved this through sharing in divine love. If they had not done this, we would not see them making that same progress, and possibly not very much progress at all in the same time frame. But there would still be progress. As John says, so you see that in order to help these dark spirits, it is not necessary for the helping spirit to be one who has in his soul the divine love. This means that the spirit who is helped in this way cannot progress higher than its natural love, moral conscience, and intellectual endowments will permit. This is important for you and all humankind to know, for the reason that you and others may learn what the true soul development means, and how effectively spirits possessing this soul development may help all other spirits, good or bad. So, although we might not be able to teach as much as someone else who has greater experience, say, we can all still be of service to each other by helping each other, and in doing so, making a difference to each other. Now, I've spoken in at least one other video about my experience as a medium, giving demonstrations of mediumship in spiritualist churches and other centres, and of how varied are those who come forward from spirit in the hope of communicating with people in this world upon the earth. John makes the point that all such communication can have value. He expresses this by saying, aside from this, you may suppose that the spirits who you hear talk at the seances, where all kinds and conditions of spirits congregate and promise to help both mortals and spirits, may not be able to do so because some are in a dark and low condition themselves. Yet, all spirits may help other spirits to some extent who are in a lower condition, and sometimes in the beginning of their progression, more satisfactorily than can the higher spirits, because these dark spirits who try to help the darker spirits are more in harmony with them. And the darker spirits will listen to them with more interest and belief that they can help them. So again, this point that help is possible where people are likely to listen to each other. And that is often where people are close enough to each other so as to feel they have something in common. In spirit, as in this world, we tend to trust the word of those we can identify with, or who seem similar to us, and who therefore seem likely to have some understanding of our own situation. John does introduce a note of caution, though. But this is a help that does not work in such a way as to cause the spirits who are helped to lose their desires and recollections very rapidly, and to progress into the higher planes without the great suffering that you have been told of. So the progress that comes from listening to someone who is only a little further ahead is not likely to be rapid. Yet gradual progress is still progress, and therefore has value. I thought I would write this to you for the reason that you might not, in your investigations and teachings of the spirit life, give due importance to the possibility of one dark spirit helping another. All the phases of mediumship, when honestly conducted, have their proper places and work in God's plan of redemption, and none of them must be considered as useless or without special design. At the very least, someone who is already in spirit can help others adjust to no longer being in this world. And in terms of messages from Spirit to people in this world, any person in Spirit can do something to demonstrate their own continuing existence and the reality of life after death. In our materialistic world, where the majority of people do not have convincing evidence of life after death, that can be an important contribution to make, even if it turns out to be only preliminary knowledge. John continues, of course, the above-mentioned phase of assistance to spirits is of the lowest form and is merely the preliminary to the great work which the higher spirits do in carrying out the great plan of redemption, which has been explained to you. The important work is that of the spirits who know what the divine love of God is, and what fits spirits and mortals for the enjoyment of the great happiness, which they can obtain only in the celestial spheres, and also in the soul spheres to a lesser extent. When a spirit who is dark learns of this great love and strives to obtain it, and earnestly prays for the help of the Holy Spirit, which is God's messenger of love, that spirit will progress much more rapidly, and its sufferings and darkness will leave it sooner, and greater happiness will come to it. Still, I say, the work of these lower spirits that I have spoken of is a great work and must not be underestimated. So remember what I have written and give due credit to this work. I will not write more, but with all my love and blessings, say good night. Your brother in Christ, John. So an important message, I think, in which John does two things. He shows us that all acts of service matter. All sharing of spiritual knowledge matters, because each of us can find someone to help, even if it's just with words of encouragement. Having said that, he emphasizes once again that sharing in divine love is the more rapid road to spiritual development and to a higher spiritual development, and that all acts of service through sharing this knowledge will have correspondingly greater results. We can help each other lighten our burdens by sharing and helping each other to develop our capacity for natural human love, so that we walk a path lit by that love. Yet the swifter path to progress is by sharing in divine love, because that takes us onto a pathway lit by the light of God's love. And that is a light that changes our very nature. The next video in this sequence, video 1022, to be uploaded next Sunday, will look at a message given to James Padgett by Jesus on December 2, 1915, just 9 days after the message we've looked at in today's video. By this stage, James has been writing for a good 16 months, and you can see the pace and quality of the work picking up, with some very valuable messages coming through regularly. The next midweek video will start series 3, which will include quite a varied collection of messages from people in spirit who were strangers to James Padgett, in the sense that they had no earthly connection to James. It includes messages from spirit guides James only came to know of through his automatic writing, through to complete strangers just contacting him because they are in dire need of guidance and help. So series 3 will be quite a mixed bag, but they are all messages that help to expand our picture of life in spirit. More pieces for the jigsaw puzzle that we're assembling. So I hope you'll join me for one or both of those upcoming videos. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed this one, please do take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It all helps to spread knowledge of this material so other like-minded souls can enjoy it too. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care until then. Bye-bye.